Good day and welcome to another edition of Tourismus Namibia, where we obviously look at a couple of topics and then give you a couple of ideas in terms of destinations, and then obviously we've got a special item under To The Point. So each week we bring you this show. My name is Frank Steffen. I'm the editor of Allgemeine Zeitung and then obviously in charge of Tourismus Namibia. And the topics today, we'll have a look at astronomy photos. It was a photo that was actually taken in Namibia. That's why we will have a quick look at it. And then we'll also have a look at what they are calling creatives, the drive for creative people to look at environmental issues and stuff like that. And then we also have a quick look at the hyena project down in the southern side of the coast, of the Namibian coast. And finally, we'll also have a look at the conservation status and red list. This is a new book that was brought out recently by the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, as well as NCE. And then under destinations, we'll follow through with our current item, Tourists of the Year. But this time, as part of that, we'll look at Timbila, which is quite a nice little lodge, as you can see. And it's not only a lodge, camping site, whatever. And we'll also talk to Nelson Ashipala. He's of the NWR, and he spoke to me about the Dolomite camp of NWR. Quite an interesting talk I had with him there. And finally, under To The Point, we'll just have a quick look at the Rhino Day, specifically the Rhino Moma project, which is up close to Uchu. So quite a nice little item that we've got for you there. So quite an interesting show today. I hope, at least I think it is an interesting. I hope you share that sentiment. But up next is topics. Yeah, welcome back to topics it is. Like you will probably remember, around about December 2021, we had this comet Leonard that passed quite close to Earth. And if you look at photos of NASA, they actually had quite a number of photos depicting the whole voyage of that as it went through our piece of space and then left for its on its way out again. So in that time, we had Austrian Gerald Rehmann. He was down at the Tivoli Southern Sky guest farm. And he actually made a photo which was now named Astronomy Photo of the Year, or he was actually called Astronomy Photographer of the Year. Now here you can clearly see, so the Royal Observatory Greenwich in London, which organizes the Astronomy Photography of the Year competition, called the image incredible. It shows a piece of the comet's tail breaking off and being carried away by solar winds. So the comet was briefly visible on Earth, as I told you earlier. And so what I did is I looked it up just to give you an idea where this Tivoli Southern Sky guest farm is, and here on the map. And it's actually not that far from Windhoek. Roughly 180 kilometers. As you go down from Windhoek towards Rehoboth, you can turn off and then drive to Tivoli along the gravel road, or you can take the tar road right up to Databus and then just take the last piece down to Tivoli also on gravel road. But this is quite an interesting thing, obviously, and Tivoli actually says on its internet site, they say, the climate in Namibia is generally dry with a very high percentage of clear nights and sunny days. The Namibian winter months from May to September offer ideal atmospheric conditions for astronomy. During this time, temperatures can drop below freezing at night, while it usually gets 15 to 20 degrees during the day. And the large distance to the next town, 130 kilometers as the crow flies to Windhoek, also has an impact on the fact that astronomers can enjoy this whole site without disturbing light sources. Now, they obviously had a talk to this Mr. Rehman, and he was obviously very much impressed. He's a professional photographer, and he's been doing a lot of astronomy photos over the years, and he was obviously pleasantly surprised.
And the winner of the 2022 Astronomy Photographer of the Year competition is...
Gerald Riemann of Austria with Disconnection Events. Let's hear from the winner of the competition now.
Hello, I am Gerald. I was surprised and at the same time very pleased that my comet picture made it onto the overall win. I'm very proud of this. This award is one of the highlights of my astrophotography work. All the efforts that went into making this photo a success was worth it. I now have 35 years of experience in the field of comet photography, which certainly helped when creating and processing the image. The time window for observing a comet is short. They unfold their full splendor near the Sun, to disappear again into the deeps of space. To achieve pinpoint stars and a sharp comet on the image at the same time is the challenge to me. This is not easy, because the comet moves in front of the sky, and sometimes the structures in the ion tail are changing very fast. Many thanks to the jury for their decision.
Huge congratulations to Gerald Riemann, the winner of the Astronomy Photographer of the Year 2022 competition. This is such a stunning image of a comet as it's actually breaking up in space. I've never seen anything quite like it before. Now, Melissa, what was it like seeing this image for the first time? And
anyway, so that's the photographer of the year in terms of in terms of astronomy. Up next, we've got creatives, and what they have in South Africa is they call themselves Climate Story Lab ZA, and they're calling for submissions and creative narrative-based projects, whether they're films, animation, social media campaigns, theatre, dance, stand-up comedy, poetry, children's, teens, adult, whatever, fiction, writing. They've got podcasts, visual arts, performance art, anything that uses the creative medium to communicate a message about climate change. So up to 8 projects will be selected for CSLZA, and up to 2 team members per project will be invited to a 4-day lab near Cape Town from 22 to 26 January 2023. And the lab will focus on developing the stories, designing impact strategies, and introducing projects to potential partners. And so this is not something just for South Africa, because creatives from Southern African countries, including Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, DRC, Lesotho, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Seychelles, South Africa, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe may apply. And so obviously these guys are going on to the next level, and it's actually what they describe in their mail that they sent us, where they said it is especially when governments are late to react to urgent applications and or appeals by the normal man on the street, that they feel these sort of guys need to come in and actively get the government to listen up. So good for them. And then, up next we've got hyenas. And we've been talking about hyenas on the show before, especially with Marie Lemmerle. She's always busy with these hyenas down there. And that's where we always score these photos that we often bring you. Now, they were lucky because they got a little donation of 60,000 Namibia dollars. Unfortunately, the photo is very grained, but it is what I got. It's obviously made with a cell phone. But anyway, so Speergebied Diamond Mining, in collaboration with Ghost Town Tours in Kolmanskop, recently hosted a film crew from the US and South Africa. And the team stayed in the Lüderitz Bay area to shoot some scenes for an upcoming television series commissioned by Amazon Studios. And so it's while filming in the restricted area, the film crew worked with the Brown Hyena Research Project. And in fact, with that team. And so in appreciation for the support, the film producers made a financial contribution of 60,000 Namibia dollar to the work of the Brown Hyena Research Project. So well done for them. And this is Marie Lemele looking at one of the cameras that they've got in place there. So quite good to see that people don't only come here to make use of our nice environment, but actually do something to support it at the end of the day before leaving. Right, and then finally we'll just quickly introduce you, just a sort of reminder, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry and Tourism, together with the NCE, that's the Namibia Chamber of Environment, they issued this book, which is then obviously titled Conservation Status and Red List of the Terrestrial Carnivores of Namibia. And it's quite a nice little book, and as part of it, on the NCE, I also found a poster. Now, obviously, we can't show you the whole poster, but this sort of gives you an idea what we're looking at. And what I like about it, it shows you what is threatened, what is near threatened, and you know, what are the types of threats. And you'll actually be surprised how many animals we have in Namibia that are actually under threat. So it's quite a nice book to have, and I thought I should just tell you about it. Anyway, and those are our topics for today. Up next, we've got destinations.
You know, a few weeks ago, I would never do this on a Saturday morning. Back then, I was standing in line all day. Now it's just like that.
You are using the FNB banking app like I told you.
Girl, it saved my weekend. Now I can do all my banking on this.
Payments, transfers, checking statements.
Even opening accounts. Just like that. Oh, did I tell you what my husband did?
Even me, I want to save time with the, what's the name of the app?
FNB app.
Don't be left behind. Make the switch to the FNB app, online banking or cell phone banking, and change the way you bank to change your life. FNB, how can we help you?
Yes, and destinations, we'll have a look as part of the Tourists of the Year competition once again. I'd like to remind you that next week will be the last time that you'll actually have the opportunity to still submit your video. Remember, we promoted this quite a lot, and you can actually find it on our Facebook page. If you watch this show on Facebook, you will certainly see Tourist of the Year. Don't think it's not for you, because the last time we did it in 2020, we were pleasantly surprised by how many people took part. And it wasn't only a matter of taking part, it was a matter of seeing how proud they were, and actually starting off with their little videos, and then after 6-7 months finding that they've actually gotten quite professional about it. And so it's a growth process as well, and actually makes you, or puts you in a position that subsequent to the competition, no matter whether you win, you just suddenly look at your own productions with a totally different eye, in terms of quality, in terms of what you want to insert, so that later on you still remember, oh yes, this is how we drove to this and that spot, and this is what we experienced, and look at this. You suddenly realize it's not only about the destination, but actually the travel to the destination. And so it was quite a nice little thing to see how people started enjoying it. So have a look on this Facebook page of Tourismus Namibia, and you're likely to find the old videos that I've started to bring on a daily basis, so that people can actually see what was finally done by these people who were ordinary people just like you and me. Anyway, so up first we've got Timbila. Timbila is part of Nkankuse, and why I put it up like this is, you can see here, it's Irindi on the one hand, it's quite close to Omaruru already. It's basically on the way over towards Mount Etcho, like I said. So you've with Irindi, Timbila, Mount Etcho, I could almost say you could spend your whole holiday just in these three areas, and I'll tell you, there's hardly any animal on earth that you wouldn't have seen except in the sea. But anyway, Timbila is not only one spot, and that's why I showed it like that. Here you can see it. It's Timbila, the private villa, which is like very upmarket. Not necessarily me, but certainly there will be people who love that. I'm more into the camping, so Timbila Camp is still there, but make no mistake, Timbila Safari Lodge is very nice as well. So on their internet site, they actually ask you, and they say, have you ever dreamed of a luxurious safari that combines all the must-see wildlife with life-changing experiences? At Timbila, we aim to enrich lives by immersing you in a journey shaped by our stories of human-wildlife conflict mitigation. 3 world-class properties provide the backdrop to your dream safari, each unique in their own way. Welcome to the home of second chances. And remember, this is, we often spoke about Nkusa already. We started off with that one trip where I told you going up to Hanas. And it is invariably what Nkusa does. They thrive on giving animals a second chance. And still integrating them into nature. This is obviously that villa that we spoke about. I mean, this is like some of the finest stuff you will find. But obviously it depends on your taste. Not everybody is into it, but then on the other hand, most of you might actually love this. I mean, look at this tent. They're very, very nicely done. And certainly you've got different approaches, different styles that you can use. So the best thing is probably to actually go onto the site and have a look. But this photo we had to include because, I mean, this is typically Namibia as you drive through the bush. And clearly, and then, by the way, they don't talk of a game drive. They talk of a conservation drive. So it's a bit of a different approach. This photo is actually with a view towards towards the south mostly, so quite nice. It's basically looking towards Umburu for those who know that area. This is obviously the lodge right up on the mountain spots there. So really nicely and well laid out, very nice. And so what we did is we actually spoke to Rene Kuster. He's the manager of the lodge. Have a look. Yes, online with me in the studio, so to say, we've got today Rene Kusters. He's the manager of the Timbila Lodge. That's obviously part of Nkusa. So, hi Rene, are you well?
I'm well, thank you very much for having me.
Just quickly, Rene, while we're on this whole thing now, obviously it's all about Tourist of the Year 2022, 2023. In just a few words, describe quickly what is your lodge all about and where is it situated and what makes it special?
All right, so Timbila is located about 45 kilometers northeast of Omaruru. It's a 30,000 hectare reserve with the Omaruru River flowing straight through the reserve. What's also amazing is that previously Timbila was it comprises 4 farms which were previously hunting farms, and now it's basically a safe haven for animals of all type, but specifically animals with a human-wildlife conflict background. So many of the animals that we do have on the reserve are rehabilitated wildlife from our rehabilitation centers that we've released onto the 30,000 hectares, and they are free to roam around now. And that gives the experience of the guests a bit of a cause, you know.
Yeah, but that's typically Nkusa style. I mean, let's face it, all of it is just about rehabilitation, giving animals a second chance. So with that sort of theme as a background, what would you judge is the typical profile of the visitor that should be sure not to miss your lodge when they're up in your region?
Yeah, so like you said, Nkusa's main aim is conservation, and the tourist that visits Timbila has a focus of world-class service. The experiences that you would expect from Nkusa, they get excited about the lion's roar, the bird calls in the morning, that type of thing, and all while knowing that they are contributing directly to the conservation effort in Namibia as a whole, and preserving and conserving that experience that they have at Timbila.
So at the end of the day, just give us more or less the sort of profile of visitor that you typically get.
So what's awesome at Timbila is that we have something for everyone. So we've got the Safari Lodge, which caters mostly to international tourists at a very high standard, who expect the wonderful safari experience that we have to offer in Namibia, with world-class cuisine, service, and all the amenities included. Then we also have Camp Namibia, which is more focused towards the local traveler and budget-minded traveler, if you may, which is a new definition of safari glamping. So it's very luxurious, self-catering camping, so to speak. And then we also have the campsites, which are also focused towards a budget-minded traveler, with the right amount of luxury added to that. So we also have a wood-fired pizza oven at Camp Namibia, together with a wonderful pool and a fireplace, boma, and everything. So it's camping plus, if you may. And then the last but definitely not least, we've got we've got the Timbila private villa, which is yes, the non plus ultra in luxury accommodation. So it's a 5-bedroom villa that includes everything from a private chef, a butler, a private private guide with a vehicle, and everything in between. So you've got a master bedroom with 4 suites. You have a huge inside and outside dining area, and a massive heated pool as well, with views over the 30,000 hectare bushveld and a private watering hole.
So technically, you catering for all types of people, and what sort of gets what I love, especially after COVID, when the local tourism industries really had a big drive towards engaging with local tourism. I'm actually glad to hear that local tourism is what you're still getting at, if I understand your budget-minded approach.
Of course, definitely. Yeah, it's a very important part of operating something like this, and yeah, basically ensuring that we always have something, always cover the demand in that sense.
And then finally, if people come to visit your lodge, what are the sort of extraordinary items that you offer them?
So the lodge is located about roughly 100 meters of the Omaruru bushveld. What's also nice about the reserve is that we've got a few different biomes. So it's not only bushveld, we've got the Omaruru riverine forests, we've got the Osara mountain range, which is also in the reserve, and then of course the bushveld itself. So you've got wonderful views of the sunrise and sunset every day. You've got views over the reserve with animals passing by, that type of thing. And yeah, just a very close to nature experience. The lodge also has, of course, a wellness center and a gym. So if you're the type of guest that focuses more on relaxation than these active activities, you're welcome to do a massage or visit the gym whenever you like.
Good stuff. And then I suppose you're offering game drives as well.
We do offer game drives. We don't call it game drives because we focus a bit more on the conservation effort of it all, and not only the animals, but also on the flora and the landscapes and that type of thing. So we offer conservation drives, guided bushwalks. We offer animal tracking, and of course what we call the behind the scenes, which takes like the name says, a behind the scenes look at our conservation effort at Timbila. So that's the control center, the anti-poaching unit, the reserve security management, and that type of thing. And then especially also for the Camp Namibia guests, we do offer self-drive game drives, so the guests can have a drive around in the reserve by themselves. We of course track them throughout the reserve in case they have any car issues or anything. But yeah, I think that's that's something that especially the locals appreciate as well.
Yeah, no, I think this is really what locals love to do. Is there's hardly any opportunity to get around with your 4x4 and what have you, and so they have a bit of an opportunity to test them, or at least feel they're out there. René, just finally, before we part, give us a bit of background about yourself. How long have you been doing this?
So in the tourism industry, I've been about 16 years. With some stints in Germany as well, but I've been back since last year in March when I started at Nankuse Lodge just outside Windhoek, And 6 months later, just after the opening of Timbila, I moved there as the lodge manager.
Yeah, great stuff. And I know Maruru in the area quite well. It's actually not too far from where some of my family lives. So yeah, nice to see. And surely the photo that you sent us definitely was shortly after the rain, I'm quite sure.
That's right, yeah. So everything turns very nice and green there. We've had good rain, so yeah.
Yeah. René, thank you very much for having us. And like I said earlier to you, this is obviously just the first time. So during the Tourismus Expo, we will certainly contact you again.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Clearly, you can see that René enjoys what he's doing, and I can totally agree with him. I would enjoy it as well if I was up there. But then we also brought you the one video that we still wanted to show you. Have a look. Yeah, and that is Timbila. Timbila, clearly a very nice place to go to, I must be honest. I somehow hadn't realized how close to Windhoek it actually is, so it's certainly on my bucket list, that's for sure. Right, and then also on your bucket list should be Dolomite Camp. Dolomite Camp is part of NWR, that's Namibia Wildlife Resorts. Here you can see it's sort of disappearing at the bottom there. But there's a road towards Uchu, and you know more or less where Kamanyap is, and the road obviously leads up to Ruakana. And if you go up that road from Kamanyap to Ruakana, it's a tar road, by the way. As you go past Otjavasandu, you will not have to go too far to reach the Galton Gate. And if you enter via the Galton Gate, you go to the Dolomite Camp. Now here you can see it better. Once again, it shows you the road that goes up to Ruakana, i.e. going down to Kamanyap. And before you come to Kovaris, actually, you already turn off into the Galton Gate. And now, if you were wondering why it's called Dolomite Camp, have a look at that Dolomite Ridge that you can clearly see there. And it's like right on that ridge where they've built the camp. A very nice place to be. And so if you have a look at the photos, while I just quickly read out what I found on the net for you, it says Dolomite Resort is located in a previously restricted scenic area in the western region of Etosha National Park, rich in biodiversity due to the absence of mainstream tourism. The Dolomite formations in the area give the resort its name and provide a lush vista. With no less than 15 waterholes, wildlife sightings are very common around the resort and provide excellent photography opportunities. Black and white rhino have often been spotted at the Klippan waterhole. Moreover, the specially arranged game drives bring you to the most exclusive areas of the park, generally only known to conservationists. So clearly you can see here you've got your pool, so if you go there in summer, it's just a magic place to be. So it's really, as Nelson Ashipala explained to me, this is certainly upmarket. So it's not your normal NWR hideout. This is a nice place to go to. And seeing that we're just talking of Nelson Ashipala, just have a look at the interview that I had with him. So, with me here, you can see is Nelson Ashipala. He's the public relations officer. In the past tense, we would talk it, but in the meantime, he's responsible for much more at Namibia Wildlife Resorts. He's responsible for corporate communications, online media, and then MIC, which is basically events and all this type of thing. Have I got it right?
You've got it right. Yes.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, the reason why I've actually gone to NWR is because you prefer to talk about your specific establishment with me rather than putting your people out there.
Yes.
Which isn't that serious. But Nelson, just a few words. Tell us, Dolomite Camp, what is it all about?
So Dolomite, we call it the lover's paradise. That's how we've nicknamed it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's what you can call a honeymoon destination. So Dolomite is the only resort within the Etosha National Park that is found at the western side of Etosha. It's famous for the way that it's built. It's found on the ridges of Dolomites. So
boulders.
Yeah. So I think what makes it spectacular is the fact that one can actually oversee or one can overlook the Etosha National Park. One can overlook the pens.
Oh, you actually see them from there?
Actually, if you were to look close enough, if you know where they are, you will be able to see them.
Okay.
So, and then most importantly, it's also famous for the fact that it has about 15 waterholes surrounding it. So you are definitely going to see a lion or any one of the big fives out there.
Okay.
Personally, it is my favorite resort in the Etosha National Park. Simply because this other time I slept at Dolomite, I could hear a lion roaming outside.
Okay.
It was roaming.
But it's still fenced in, is it not?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. So
That's
this is not cardamom, it's free flow.
That's what makes it very, very spectacular.
Okay.
So, and somebody had to come fetch me with a whole scooter, and he told me, you have it? And I told him, yeah, I have it. But for me, being somebody who's very interested in tourism, for me, that's something amazing. So, and then also Dolomite, what makes it also outstanding is the fact that I think, usually I like to use the Golden Gate when I move into Etosha. And for me, that gate being the closest one to Dolomite, I think, it's just spectacular, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the food is nice. The rooms aren't that many, it's about 20 rooms, so you don't really have a large consignment of tourists around. Like if you want your free moments and your peace and your quiet, you want to spend some time by the pool, you can actually have the whole resort to yourself. Yeah, as compared to the other popular resorts that are found.
Yeah, exactly. The other ones are quite full.
Yeah, they're quite full. So I think that's what makes Dolomites very, very
So what's your specific profile? What's your typical profile of people who you would tell, listen, you guys, you cannot miss this?
Here's one thing. If I see you going to Dolomite alone, then I'll ask what's wrong with you. You know. So usually it's for couple. Okay. It's very spectacular. It's a scene that you wouldn't want to experience alone. Yeah. So it's very big amongst couples. So it's also a bit of high end. So by high end, I mean it's one of our classic resorts. So it holds it's something that is high end customers.
Yeah.
So I think Dolomite is what you would want to be if, like I said, if your honeymoon phase or you're in your honeymoon phase or you want to impress somebody, you want to take them out to feel a bit of Namibia.
That's where you need to go.
That's where you need to go to Dolomite.
And I like the idea that it's not overfilled. With only 20 places, you can still keep a bit of a distance and so on. But what makes it even more special? What specials do you offer there?
I think what makes it even extra special is the chef's touch to it. You know, I think NWR it's something which we've been trying to fix, and it's something which we are also openly admitting. You know, our food perhaps is not the most particular, but looking at the trends that we have in place, Dolomite and its food, one cannot actually see lots of complaints out there.
Okay.
And then most importantly, I've been to Dolomite lots of times, but I've never found the place to be that packed. There were 3 or 4 times I've had the resort all to myself.
Oh, okay. So it's really something for the guy who wants to be kept alone.
Who want to be kept alone, you know, who wants to just drive out and go and see a lion and come back, spend lots of time. The scenery is amazing, you know, sitting on top of those Dolomite ridges and being able to overlook the Etosha National Park, you know, being able to view the waterhole from your room.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And because it's alongside the road, really, it's actually relatively close to the road that goes up to Ruakana. And that side, you obviously have a chance of actually seeing rhinos and stuff like that.
You have a chance of seeing rhinos, like I said, the big fives. I think I spotted my first big threes, having stayed at Dolomite, and I did not have to move an inch.
Okay, so
I saw them from the balcony of my room. So it's a spectacular place.
Yeah, and then obviously you can still combine it and say, okay, after 2 days I'll move on to Okakuyu and then on to Namatoni or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean it's 180 kilometers from Okakuyu. So yeah, if you and the good thing about it is if you're tired of the long drives, you know, Etosha can be extremely hot sometimes.
Yeah.
If you're tired of the long drives, you can always just pop in. You are definitely almost going to find a space for you to stay in for that night. So I think,
so it's not as if you don't need to sort of book up way ahead of time.
You have a greater chance of finding space as a walk-in than finding space in Okakuyu, because Okakuyu, you know,
it's normally booked out.
It's always booked out. I mean, I've tried to stay in Okakuyu when was it 2 weekends ago and I couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So
now you being Nelson Ashipala, tell us, you know, more personal note now, obviously, but. How long have you been doing this, and what makes you love this?
Please don't laugh. 7 months. I'm in the job. Naturally, I'm a tourist. Actually, I feel I fell in the right profession. I've traveled the world, and locally, I've traveled the length and breadth. I'm very fond of Damaraland. I keep on going back.
That's why you love Dolomite.
That's why I love Dolomite. And I know you love Kodum, right?
Yeah. No, I actually love most of the places. I've been all around the places. And I always say each place that you go to has something special in Namibia, no matter where you go.
No matter where you go. I'm fond of cycling, so that's why I love Damaraland. So I would always just pack my bikes. I would just pull out my bike and ride along the beautiful roads and the beautiful sceneries. So I'm also fond of adventures. So I think Damaraland also brings out the best in me, because it has those attractions that can push me to try out new things and new limits.
And from Damaraland up to Etosha is really just a jump.
It's a jump. I also love the fact that it's also an entry point to the coastal side. So I'm also a little bit into surfing. So there's a little spot that I like to perhaps just pull off and do a few stunts. So I think
you need to teach me. That's one thing I've never done.
You should actually. I learned it. I was being taught somewhere in Thailand how to surf.
Oh, okay.
I'm also a fond scuba diver, so all those things I try to combine.
Okay, but then you are in the right job now.
No, I am. I don't think I am, and it's quite interesting. You know, somebody asked me, you know how the universe works? At your previous employer, you were almost every weekend out of town, but now you're being paid to go out of town. So that's the type of person that I am. So I'm very, very adventurous, and I like to go out to clear my mind. Spend some time in nature, some time alone. Re-energize, and then work on projects such as this. Exactly.
Nelson, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll repeat this closer to time, because when the expo comes, I need you again.
Thanks for having me, and good luck, Dolomite.
Thank you. Right, and that was Nelson Ashipala, and obviously, just like we did with the others, we also want to show you a bit more of the NWR material that was sent to me.
Somebody play me something from the jukebox. Number 6 in the jukebox. Take me home, I'm getting old. Let me remember the people, the rhythm, the feeling of togetherness. Let me remember the people, the rhythm, the feeling, and the beat in the night. Hey, oh my Africa, oh my Big you Africa, oh my, oh, see that.
Okay, Dolomite Camp. So just remember, that's one of the sponsors, Dolomite Camp and Timbila obviously being another. And then last week we brought you 2 other sponsors, and next week we'll bring you the final 2. Because remember, once we've received all the videos, we will have to decide who the 6 finalists are eventually, and that will be decided at the Tourism Expo, which is coming up on the 3rd of November. It goes on to the 5th. Very full program, and I'm pleasantly surprised at how many people actually have an interest to take part this time. Tourism Expos at one stage seem to be not that important anymore, but I'll tell you what, it has become important again. Everybody wants to be there, and we as facilitators have actually made sure that we've got a really nice program for you, plus the fact that you obviously get vouchers to the value of 500,000 that will be brought out in that time. And so there's keep watch of this whole tourism thingy. The expo, and I'm sure you will find that there's something for you in there as well, because specials will be part of the expo, that's for sure. Anyways, those are destinations for this week. Up next, we've got To The Point. Well, if you didn't know how the Tourist of the Year competition works, there you now saw it. So if you're not quite sure, just reverse this whole recording a bit and then have a look later on again, and be sure to take part. I mean, it's worth a try, definitely. Anybody of us can hold a cell phone, take an odd video. There's so many tools which I, over time, learned that are simple to use, relive, and all these sort of apps that actually show you, and you can actually take photos as you drive and all this sort of thing. Just let your imagination flow, take part and see what comes of it. You may be one of the finalists who will then basically win a free weekend for 2 at one of the sponsors' lodges. And then ultimately you could even win a 10 grand. So not too bad, I'd say. Anyway, so we're under To The Point now, and on Wednesday, I must say, Thursday, sorry, the 22nd, we had the International Rhino Day. And I got a couple of photos because 2 of my colleagues actually went out to Kifaru Lodge to have a look around what they do, because they're involved in the Rhino Mama project. But while I'm doing that, while you look at the photos, I just will have a couple of interesting facts that I found when I looked up the International Rhino Day. And so rhino, a million years ago, rhinos appear in Asia. About 1 million years ago, the first woolly rhinoceros appears in China. 1647, so obviously a huge leap forward, colonial era poaching starts taking place. Then 1970 to 1980, poaching increases, a sharp increase in poaching occurs, driven by the growing demand for rhino horns in Asian countries. Then in 1977, the rhino horn trade is declared illegal. So that's part of the CITES, obviously the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Then in 1993, the Chinese government bans the domestic trade and medicinal use of rhino horns, removing them from the official traditional Chinese medicine pharmacopoeia, which doesn't help that much if at the end of the day they still have that illegal trade and they're not acting on that. So in 2011, you started having the first ever World Rhino Day. And so clearly my colleagues did not only visit the place, they actually spoke to Jacob Miller, and he's very heavily invested in the Rhino Moma project. So have a look at the video.
Can you tell us a bit about when the Rhino Moma project started and how it came to the idea?
Yes, my son Tristan, when he was 15 years old, he had to do a project in school on any conservation project. He basically had to do an oral speech, and his speech was then about, without us knowing, about breeding as many as possible rhinos to repopulate Namibia and Africa with rhinos. So that's basically where the whole idea started, and we bought our very first rhino then in 2011. 2012 we went to see John Hume in South Africa, the largest rhino breeder in the world. And end of 2012 we also received another batch of rhinos then from South Africa. Most of our rhinos were imported from South Africa, but also sourced in Namibia. 2013 January our very first calf was born, and since then until now 131 calves has been born at the Rhino Mama project. We've exported to the USA, but mostly we like to export to range states where they used to be before they went extinct in some countries. So we sold some to DRC Congo, to Angola, and most of the other ones we sell in Namibia to local reserves.
Okay. So I imagine that's also a quite expensive project. How do you manage your funding? Where do you get your financial resources from?
The finances mostly came from my other businesses and properties, but since 2015 we really started struggling, and eventually in 2018 we realized that we will have to do something like go into the tourism. First, we didn't want to do that because we feel that we just more and more people knows about the rhinos, but eventually it's like a catch-22. You need the funds and the income. So we built Kifaru Luxury Lodge and also Kifaru Bush Camp, but we've opened the doors 4 months before COVID struck, and which was really bad timing. And obviously we then for 2 years didn't have any income from that. Now it's picking up. We do, however, get some funds from overseas and local businesses that's supporting us, which we are really, really grateful. Especially with the little ones, we got a lot of milk from people in Namibia. Really, a lot of milk.
Okay. Cool. And how big exactly is the reserve?
It's 13,000 hectares, so it's basically 2 farms bordering each other. We have 3 breeding camps, and the reason for the breeding camps is that we don't want interbreeding, so we move the heifers before they get sexually mature to another camp, so that the same father don't breed with his own calves. And then we have a big open big reserve where we also then have some of the other rhinos.
And I understand you have black and white rhinos.
Yes, we do. We are also custodians of black rhinos for the government.
So can you tell me a bit about how the feeding works?
During the raining season, basically from January up till about June, July, we don't feed because then there's enough grass in the veld. When the grass gets dry and the nutritional value drops quite a lot here from July, August, then we start feeding a little bit, and then the animals start coming more and more as they don't get enough nutrition. And so basically from September, October, November, and December, we feed quite a lot to keep them in optimal breeding condition.
And we saw you actually grow your own lucerne.
Yes, we have a 9-hectare alfalfa or lucerne field, and then a 7.5-hectare rose grass field. So we can produce most of our feed that we are feeding. We don't have to buy a lot.
But we also noticed most of the rhinos are actually dehorned. Can you tell us more about this process?
Yes, that unfortunately with the escalation in poaching in Namibia, we recently took the decision to dehorn all our rhinos. So basically every single rhino which is older than 18 months are dehorned on our property. It's actually sad to see the rhino without the horn, which make him so unique, but to keep them safer from poachers, we had to do that.
From what age onwards do you dehorn the animals?
Normally roughly about from 18 months and older.
I guess the value of the horn is pretty high. So what does the dehorning actually cost?
The dehorning is really expensive. It depends on how many animals you do at a time, but it's between 13 and 15,000 Namibian dollars. The helicopter alone is 10,000 Namibian dollars per hour, and then your veterinarian and all the other costs involved. It's quite a big operation to do the dehorning.
And what other kind of measurements do you take to keep the rhinos safe from poaching mostly?
I won't mention everything, but I'll mention a few. We have tracking devices on some of our animals. We have an anti-poaching team that does day and night patrols on foot with quad bikes, with vehicles 24/7, and we also have a gyrocopter and drones flying. We try and fly every single day as a proactive anti-poaching measure.
One thing that makes you very special is the rhino babies you have as well. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we have little Lily, which is one of our own. The mother, for some reason, she's quite a stubborn little one. So we figure that she basically just went the wrong way and sort of felt independent enough, and she lost her mother. So she was only about a month old when we found her. So we then had to start bottle feeding her, and then very shortly after that, another baby from another reserve. The mother, for some reason, abandoned her. Wildlife vets Dr. Ulf Tubesing and Mariska, they actually darted the mother and put the calf back with the mother, let the calf suckle, and it stayed then with its mother for about 12 hours, and thereafter they found the calf abandoned again. So her name is Little Vanasha, and she's now also with us, and the two are doing quite well.
What are your plans for the future now? Do you plan on expanding? Do you have any special ideas in your head how it might get on in the future?
Yeah, we are really hoping to sell more rhinos in Namibia and thereby build the white rhino population in our country, but also in the rest of Africa. Our aim is eventually to be able to breed 50 rhino calves every single year. So yeah, that is our aim.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Yeah, and that was Jaco Miller and my colleagues Claudia Reiter and Katharina Moser of the Allgemeine Zeitung. They spent a day there last weekend and got that information for us. So good luck for the Rhino Mama project. And just remember, when you visit Namibia and you have the opportunity to take photos of rhinos, with horns, without horns, it doesn't really matter that much. Fact is, please don't always immediately send them on your cell phone. That's when the geolocation starts taking place. Take photos with your camera, take them home, enjoy them when you're back home, but don't advertise where you saw these rhinos, because that is how they finally get poached. And it is a problem. It is a huge problem, especially now that South Africa is slowly but surely getting their house in order, because they had a huge poaching problem for many years now. You can suddenly see how these poachers are getting their aim in for Namibia, and I'm very sure Botswana will follow. Although I must always say, you know, it's an old story. Botswana, many people might argue about it when they shoot people and there's no judge involved and all this stuff. But let's face it, they've got a very hard policy. So if you go to their country and you poach, you need to know in advance that you're playing with your life. And it might not always be what we like to hear, but sometimes it's the only way. And I'm not always so sure that they're wrong about their policy. I think it's a bit harsh in how they carry it out, but let's face it, you'd hardly ever hear of poaching in Botswana. But I know that in Zim, it's a huge problem as well. Zim being Zimbabwe, obviously. Right, and those were the subjects that we brought to you today. So this was Tourismus Namibia. We're at the end of the show. I hope you enjoyed it a little, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you new interesting subjects next week. Until then, remain healthy, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and have a good week ahead of you. We see each other in 7 days' time. Bye.